Happy Nowruz. It's a pleasure to be here. This is always a wonderful occasion, so let me first of all thank the hosts, the NCRI-US, for their incredible hospitality. It's great to join you once again and to be able to celebrate both the holiday of Nowruz and also the contributions that have been made by Governor Ridge. Let me start with Governor Ridge. I think that Governor Ridge stands out almost as a unique American story. It's an amazing story. Coming from a working class environment, he entered Harvard. He then went on to serve in Vietnam as a staff sergeant, earning the Bronze Star for Valor. He then went on to a distinguished career in Congress and as governor of the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I noticed that one of the headlines that we saw was, "The era of Ridge begins." How many of us have an era named after us? But I think it's really quite fitting. And I think that it is very telling that in the wake of 9/11, when I was serving at the White House, President Bush turned to Tom Ridge to lead this new department of the Department of Homeland Security, the department that was in charge of, in many ways, responding to and preventing the next 9/11. And Tom, then serving as governor of Pennsylvania, once again answered the call of his country. But what has always impressed me about the governor is his dedication and his determination to advance the cause of the disadvantaged. And I have a personal stake in this. But whether it was through his successful efforts to improve public education and health care or to protect the rights of the disabled, he has always been there at the call to serve the needs of the people of the great country that we live in. He's always been a true gentleman, respectful of all views, and able to work with others to accomplish what is important to all Americans at both the state and the federal level. He is a man of very rare vision. He is a man of unquestioned integrity. And I, for one, am proud to be able to call him a colleague and a friend in our shared pursuit of a free Iran. Tom, thank you very much. Ali Reza has also asked me to talk about Nowruz and the meaning of Nowruz in the context of the fight for freedom that we are all invested in and dedicated to pursue. Nowruz provides us the opportunity for rededicating ourselves to the cause of freedom. The symbols of Nowruz are the same symbols of the resistance. And the resistance will succeed. It has taken many years, many sacrifices, but I think that we all know that given the leadership of Mrs. Rajavi, given the support of all of you in this room, given the residents of Ashraf 3, given the resistance units who every day risks their personal freedom and their very lives for the cause of a free Iran, we will prevail. And with the start of a new year, and whether it's January 1st or the first day of spring, it's useful, I think, to take stock of where we are and where we're headed. 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of addressing a large group of Iranian Americans from communities across our great country. And I drew on my experience with the resistance, an experience that now goes back more than a decade. And I put the emphasis on the need for action. There has never been, I believe, more urgency associated with the cause that we all represent. At most, Iran today is 1 or 2 months away from a nuclear weapon. All it requires is the political decision to move forward, and when it makes that decision, when it makes the decision to go forward, it will be a true game changer with potentially catastrophic consequences. How the game will end, I'm not sure, but I am sure of one thing: it will be a much more dangerous world. And we need now to stop Iran from killing more of our soldiers and our citizens in the region and here at home through proxies and Iranian agents. We need decisive decision, decisive action, and there will be no better time. I remember at the State Department, we often said, or others often said, I hope I didn't repeat this, but it was often said that we agree with you 100%, but now is not the time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now is the time. Now is the time for action on Iran. This is a desperate regime. It tries to hide its vulnerabilities with a veneer of democratic elections, which of course are fake elections and which have been rejected by the Iranian people, who I think had a historically low turnout in this last electoral process of a few weeks ago. The Iranian people boycotted the election, and I think the message that was sent to the regime is one that they already understood, and that is that the people have had enough. They have simply had enough. The regime also pursues, as we all know, foreign aggression. We see this with proxies in Syria, in Yemen, in Iraq. Of course, we see it in Gaza today. This is Iran. Iran is behind what is destabilizing in the Middle East. Iran is behind the violence. Iran is behind the conflict in the Middle East. And we need to recognize that, and we need to take action. This is not a call for military intervention by the United States. That's not what this is about. But we can no longer postpone taking a deliberate stand to pressure the regime in a really effective way through economic and political sanctions, the maximum pressure that was practiced during the Trump administration. But the goal of that pressure should not be to encourage or compel the Iranian leaders, the mullahs, to come to the negotiating table, to negotiate over its nuclear program. That is a feckless pursuit, and it's one that will not achieve the goals that we all seek. Rather, the goal must be to isolate and destabilize the regime while supporting the democratic opposition in overthrowing the religious dictatorship from within by the Iranian people. Our policy must be to support the resistance, those brave men and women who continue to make the ultimate sacrifice for a democratic, secular, and non-nuclear Iran. This support can come in many forms, from helping to ensure the protection and rights of the refugees in Albania to policy statements that recognize the right of the Iranian people to self-defense in their rejection of a tyrannical government, a regime who, to quote Thomas Jefferson, denies its citizens the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These rights, enshrined in our own Declaration of Independence, are as important and relevant today as they were then. These and other goals are best conveyed, as we all know, I think, in the 10-point plan of Mrs. Rajavi and the NCRI, a plan endorsed by hundreds of political leaders around the world with bipartisan support in our own Congress. Today, the choice is clear. It's a clear choice between a despotic dystopian, dark existence or a positive democratic vision for the future of the Iranian people. And as I said, it's time to choose. I mean, it's time to act. So let us pray for the rebirth of the great Persian nation and the end of the nightmare of the mullahs regime, as it was in my country almost 250 years ago. And this is really a message to all supporters of a free Iran. You will prevail. The Iranian people will prevail. Freedom will prevail. Thank you very much.